Voldemort. Voldemort is the closest thing the wizarding world has to a self-made human-animal hybrid, not through DNA, but through dark magic that gradually rewrote what it even means to look human. Tom Riddle starts as a normal boy, but the moment he begins tearing his soul apart to create Horcruxes, his body starts to follow. Every split is a kind of metaphysical amputation, and the more he mutilates his humanity, the more his physical form drifts towards something colder, more reptilian. By the time he returns to power, the changes are no longer subtle. The face becomes smooth and unnervingly pale. The nose flattens into slits. The eyes sharpen and burn with that snake-like predatory stillness. And the symbolism isn't just aesthetic. Voldemort's entire identity merges with serpents. He's a Parselmouth. He surrounds himself with snake imagery. His most intimate bond is with Nagini, a creature he treats less like a pet and more like an extension of his own will. Werewolves. Remus Lupin is terrifying because he's basically a two-person household in one body, and he's the only one paying rent. The bite heals, the scars fade, and everyone acts like the crisis is over. But lycanthropy doesn't leave, it moves in, quietly, like a passenger that waits for the moon to unlock the door. And when it hits, it's not a transformation, it's a takeover. The wolf isn't a costume he puts on, it's a second operating system that boots up and shoves Remus into the background. Memory, empathy, self-control, those aren't deleted, they're just muted. He can't negotiate with it, he can only plan around it. Potions, isolation, a whole life designed around not hurting anyone. But here's the cruel part, even when he does everything right, society still treats him like he's already guilty. People don't see a man fighting for control, they see a weapon with a calendar. That's why werewolves are the most brutal hybrid. The monster isn't just in your body, it's in your reputation, your future, your chances, forever. Centaurs. Most hybrids in the wizarding world are scary because you watch a human turn into something else. Centaurs skip the transformation entirely. They start finished, and that's why they feel so unsettling. There's no cure, no reversal, no moment where the human side wins back control. Their anatomy is a perfect contradiction. A human face that can speak in riddles and prophecy, fused to a body that runs like a battering ram. That alone is dangerous, but the real threat is cultural, because centaurs don't think like wizards. They don't want Hogwarts, wand permits, or ministry approval. They want distance. They read the stars like a living code, and they treat wizard arrogance as the loudest weakness in the forest, which means the moment you disrespect their territory, you're not handling a beast. You're triggering a response from people who have human-level strategy and animal-level force. And unlike a werewolf, they don't lose themselves, they choose. Merpeople. Merpeople are the perfect example of how the wizarding world disguises horror as folklore. On the surface, they sound like a cute myth, underwater humanoids, a lake community, maybe even something like a mermaid story. But the moment you actually encounter them and their environment, that fantasy collapses. Their bodies are built for depth, cold, and pressure. Human-like faces, yes, but framed by sharp teeth, powerful traits, and an entire anatomy optimized for survival in water, not beauty on land. And then there's the voice. Merpeople songs don't sound like songs above the surface. In air, it becomes a harsh, grinding language, almost like the lake itself is speaking through them. That's what makes them so eerie. They're intelligent, organized, and capable of negotiation, but their world operates on rules humans aren't designed to understand. Even something as simple as communication changes depending on whether you're in water or not. And the most dangerous part, they're not adapted to water. They're adapted to silence, meaning if you're drowning, panicking, screaming, they can still look calm while deciding whether you're a guest, a threat, or a lesson. Half giants. Everyone remembers Hagrid as the gentle giant, the big coat, the beard, the rock cakes. But what most people don't realize is how close his body sits to something non-human. Hagrid isn't just tall, his physiology was never designed to operate on a human scale. Half-giant genetics rewrite the body structurally. Denser bones, muscle fibers stacked for raw output, skin and connective tissues that absorb force instead of tearing under it. At first glance, it looks like strength, but this is where things take a darker turn. That giant biology isn't about aggression, it's about endurance. Spells that should incapacitate barely slow him down. Blows that would cripple a wizard register as bruises. His body treats danger like background noise. And the most dangerous trait of all isn't power, it's resistance. Hagrid doesn't escalate, he doesn't snap, he simply refuses to break. That's why half-giants are feared, not because they attack, but because when the wizarding world tries to crush them, they survive 5. Maledictus. Most wizarding transformations have rules and exits. Polyjuice wears off. Animagi can switch at will. Even werewolves have a pattern. But Maledictus magic is different, and Nagini proves why it belongs on any animal-human hybrid list. A Maledictus is a witch whose blood is cursed so that she will eventually become an animal permanently. It begins with temporary transformations, so everyone around her can misunderstand it. They can call it a talent. They can exploit it. They can even build a whole act around it. But the truth is brutal. Every transformation pushes her closer to the point of no return. The human mind doesn't upgrade, it gets trapped behind an animal body that can no longer speak for itself. That's why the Nagini reveal hits so hard. Almost no one in the Harry Potter fandom grew up thinking Voldemort's snake had a human past. Yet, the canon tells us she did. So, when you see Nagini later, you're not looking at a snake with a dark master. You're looking at the final stage of a person who ran out of time. Transfiguration hybrids. Not all animal-human hybrids in the wizarding world are permanent. Some are created deliberately, temporarily, through transfiguration. But temporary doesn't mean safe. When a witch or wizard is transfigured into an animal, their body isn't replaced, it's overwritten. Bones compress or stretch. Organs reorganize. Human neurology is forced to operate inside an animal framework. The mind remains conscious but trapped. One of the most famous examples happens at Hogwarts when Mad-Eye Moody transforms Draco Malfoy into a ferret. It's played for humor, but biologically it's disturbing. Draco's human awareness doesn't disappear. He experiences fear, disorientation, and physical helplessness while his body no longer responds as human. This is what separates transfiguration hybrids from natural hybrids like werewolves or Veela. The magic doesn't evolve with the body, it's imposed. The longer the transformation lasts, the greater the risk of magical instability, memory fragmentation, and incomplete reversal. This is why human transfiguration is considered advanced and dangerous magic. A clean reversal requires precision. One mistake, and animal traits can linger physically, psychologically, or both. Animagi. Most animal-human hybrids in Harry Potter are created by curses, accidents, or bloodlines. Animagi choose to become hybrids, and that choice is what makes them dangerous. The Animagus transformation doesn't add animal traits to a human body. It replaces the body entirely. Bones compress or expand, muscles restructure, sensory systems shift to match a different species, and yet the mind stays human the entire time. McGonagall's cat form is the perfect example of controlled magical transformation. Cats belong everywhere and nowhere. She can watch, listen, and move unseen because her animal form doesn't trigger fear or suspicion. Her power comes from being ignored. Sirius Black's transformation is more tragic. His dog form isn't freedom, it's concealment. To stay alive, he has to abandon being perceived as a person. Padfoot lets him move through the world safely, but only by becoming something disposable. Veela. Veela are one of the most dangerous hybrids in the wizarding world because their human form is basically camouflage. On the surface, they look like flawless witches, elegant, radiant, almost unreal. But that perfection is the trap. It's a biological and magical lure that hijacks human attention the same way a predator uses bright colors to attract prey. Men in the crowd lose logic. They make reckless decisions. They become impulsive, competitive, almost feral. And that's the first clue that Veela aren't just beautiful. They're engineered to control the room. The second clue comes the moment they're angered, because Veela don't just get upset, they shift. The human mask cracks and something bird-like emerges, sharp, violent, and unmistakably animal. It's not a full transformation into a creature you can cuddle. It's a flash of what they really are, a species that evolved two modes, seduction and defense, softness to draw you in and claws to punish you for stepping too close. And what makes them even scarier is that some witches carry Veela blood, meaning the hybrid line doesn't end with the creature. It can hide inside a normal person until it wakes up. Sphinx. The Sphinx is one of the rarest and most unsettling animal-human hybrids in the wizarding world, not because of raw power, but because of what it represents: weaponized intelligence. With the body of a lion, the wings of a giant bird, and a fully human head, the Sphinx isn't a magical experiment gone wrong. It's a deliberate fusion of physical dominance and advanced cognition. Unlike werewolves or Animagi, the Sphinx isn't bound to cycles or spells. Its hybrid form is permanent. The lion physiology grants immense strength, predatory reflexes, and territorial instincts. But the human brain changes everything. This isn't an animal acting on hunger, it's a strategist. Most people don't even realize a Sphinx Sphinx appears in the Triwizard Tournament because it never made it into the films. It exists only in the book version of the third task, quietly separating readers from movie-only viewers. The most dangerous aspect of a Sphinx isn't its claws or fangs, it's language. Sphinxes are known to guard locations using riddles designed to test logic, emotional control, and lateral thinking. Fail the riddle, and the creature attacks without hesitation. Vampires. Vampires in the wizarding world are one of the clearest examples of an unstable human creature hybrid, existing in a permanent biological middle ground between wizard and magical predator. The process is never shown directly in canon, but the results are well established. A vampire retains human intelligence, speech, and magical ability, but their physiology becomes dependent on blood consumption, altering circulation, metabolism, and sensory perception. Their senses sharpen unnaturally, especially smell and hearing, while their skin pales and body temperature drops, mimicking partial death rather than full life. Crucially, vampires are recognized as beings, not beasts, meaning the ministry acknowledges their retained consciousness and moral agency. This classification reflects the hybrid nature of the condition, mentally human, biologically altered. Their existence is quietly confirmed in Half-Blood Prince when Horace Slughorn casually mentions attending a vampire gathering during a conversation about dangerous magical circles. The line is brief but revealing. Vampires aren't legends, they're active participants in wizarding society, operating discreetly on the fringes. House elves. House elves are one of the most misunderstood hybrid beings in the wizarding world because their power is hidden behind behavior, not biology. Physically, they resemble small humanoids with exaggerated animal traits, large ears, elongated limbs, heightened reflexes, but their true hybrid nature lies in how their magic operates. Unlike witches and wizards, house elf magic doesn't rely on wands, spells, or formal incantations. It's instinctive, fast, and brutally efficient. They can apparate where wizards cannot, bypass magical protections, and perform complex spells effortlessly. On a raw magical level, house elves often outperform trained wizards. So, why do they dominate the wizarding world? Because their magic is neurologically tied to obedience. House elves are conditioned, magically and culturally, to bind their identity to service. This obedience triggers psychological distress and even self-punishment. Their bodies are capable of incredible power, but their minds are trained to suppress it. This creates a unique hybrid paradox: immense magical ability paired with enforced submission. When that bond breaks, the results are immediate. Confidence increases, autonomy follows, power surfaces. House elves aren't weak creatures serving strong masters, they're powerful hybrids taught to believe they shouldn't be. Goblins. Goblins are not half-human by anatomy, they're half-human by function, and that's what makes them unsettling. Their bodies diverged, but their minds evolved alongside humans, creating something that mirrors humanity without sharing its values. Physically, goblins are built differently. Compact frames, dense musculature, long fingers engineered for precision rather than brute force. Their skeletal structure favors control, not reach. This isn't a warrior body, it's a craftsman's body. But the real divergence is cognitive. Goblins process ownership, legacy, and power through an entirely different logic. To them, creation equals possession forever. Borrowing is theft, inheritance is fraud, and that worldview isn't cultural preference, it's baked into how they perceive value and memory. That's where the hybrid aspect becomes dangerous. Goblins can negotiate like humans, plan like humans, and outthink humans, but they don't emotionally align with them. This creates a tension unique in the wizarding world. Goblins don't seek control through power displays, but through permanence. Wizards cast spells, goblins build systems. Now, let's talk about all 5 wizarding wars in Harry Potter Explained. That's your next lesson here at Stickman Hogwarts. Click now before Lupin notices the full moon above the castle.